Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael,
This is Barbara.
and this month we read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie Oh. Axie Oh is the New York Times bestselling author of The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, XOXO, and ASAP, The Floating World Duology, and the Rebel Soul series. Born in New York City and raised in New Jersey, she studied Korean history and creative writing as an undergrad at the University of California, San Diego, and holds an MFA in writing for young people from Lesley University. Her passions include K-pop, anime, stationery supplies, and milk tea, and she currently resides in Las Vegas, Nevada with her two dogs, Toro and Layla. Barbara, you want to tell us a little about the book?
Yep, this was originally published on February 22 of 2022. The genre is retellings, romance, mythology, and I believe this is considered YA. It is 336 pages, and it currently has a 4.09 on Goodreads, 4.09 on Amazon, and a 4.09 on Fable. That's kind of creepy.
I was shocked that it was the exact same score, and I also didn't realize until you just said it that this book came out on 2/22/22.
Yes. That was actually kind of hard to say because I was like, my brain is not computing this. At the time of this recording, this has been nominated for the Leakin Award, the SYBILS Award for Young Adult Speculative Fiction, Goodreads Choice Award for Young Adult Fantasy and Science Fiction. And it has not won any awards at the time of this recording. And we think it's important for readers to know what, if any, representation is in the books we read. So for this book, there are main supporting BIPOC characters, no LGBTQ plus characters, and no characters with disabilities.
All right, and since Lauren is not here with us this month, I am going to do the brief synopses. Deadly storms have ravaged Mina's homeland for generations. Floods sweep away entire villages while bloody wars are waged over the few remaining resources. Her people believe the sea god, once their protector, now curses them with death and despair. In an attempt to appease him, each year a beautiful maiden is thrown into the sea to serve as the sea god's bride, in the hopes that one day the true bride will be chosen and end the suffering. Many believe that Shim Cheong, the most beautiful girl in the village and the beloved of Mina's older brother Joon, may be the legendary true bride, but on the night Cheong is to be sacrificed, Joon follows Cheong out to sea, even knowing that to interfere is a death sentence. To save her brother, Mina throws herself into the water in Cheong's stead. Swept away to a spirit realm, a magical city of lesser gods and mythical beasts, Mina seeks out the sea god, only to find him caught in an enchanted sleep. With the help of a mysterious young man named Shin, as well as a motley crew of demons, gods, and spirits, Mina sets out to wake the sea god and bring an end to the killer storms once and for all. But she doesn't have much time. A human cannot live long in the land of his spirits, and there are those who would do anything to keep the sea god from waking. So, what did you think about The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea? And remember, no spoilers.
I really liked it. I was looking forward to this book because I am familiar with the retelling or the folklore that this is based on. Folklore, is that what it's considered?
Folklore, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
The Shim Cheong story, and I also like read theories and all that fun stuff. I find that very interesting. So I was really excited to read this. I really enjoyed it. I loved the setting. I thought the spirit world was really fun to read. It kind of reminded me a bit of Spirited Away, actually, which I think this actually has been compared to. I think, when they do little things, they're like, oh, Spirited Away.
There were
So
definitely some critics that compared it to Spirited
yeah,
Away. Yeah.
so I can definitely see that because I got that vibe and I love me Spirited Away. So I'm not complaining that that's the vibe I got from it. I love the setting. I love the characters. I thought they were really well rounded. Even the secondary characters. I wish, my only complaint is I wish this book was longer. Like, I wanted more backstory about all these really cool characters that are in the book. And yeah, so I really enjoyed it.
I also enjoyed this book. I unlike Barbara, was not familiar with the original folk tale that this was based on, but I do want to read some more about that now that I've read the book. But I did like it. I enjoyed it. I I think I agree with you that I do wish it was a little bit longer. just because there were a few times in the book, and I'm not going to go into specifics because this is the spoiler-free section, but there were a few times in the book that felt like kind of hard cuts. I don't know what the literary equivalent of is. That's like a movie term, but where it switched from one scene to another really quickly and abruptly. And that happened a few times, and I wouldn't have been opposed to hearing about some of the in between. But overall, I did enjoy the book. So we're not going to go into individual ratings for now. Got to wait till the end for that. But our group score for The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea was an 8.4 out of 10. So would you recommend this book? I think, yeah, I think I would. It's a pretty easy book to digest. It's pretty quick. I think there were multiple times when Barbara and I were reading it that each of us pointed out like how fast of a read it felt like at times. And I think it's an interesting story, and it's an interesting, it caused me to want to dig into the folklore some more. So maybe we could do that to others as well. So yes, I think I would absolutely recommend it.
Yeah, I would recommend it. I think if you're looking for retellings that aren't like European driven, which I feel like a lot of people need to maybe broaden their horizons and start reading books that aren't so Eurocentric, this is a great one I think to jump into. I think it's a very quick read. Like I wasn't struggling to try to finish this book because it is very. I think it's a very fast paced book. Like it kind of hits the ground running, and there's not a lot of what Michael said. It's sometimes it could be a little jarring because you're like, oh wow, like back to back to back, like a lot is going on, and like oh my gosh, and there's no like lore dump or anything like that. It's interwoven really well. It is a shorter book as well. So I think it's one of those that maybe if you're kind of looking for a retelling that maybe you're not familiar with, like Google the original folklore that it's based on and then read this one, I think you would really enjoy it.
So just to give a quick example of what I was talking about, that's not a spoiler because it's literally in the synopsis that I just read. But that whole part about like her going out to the ocean and sacrificing herself in lieu of her to save her brother, that's literally all in the first chapter.
Brothers.
Brothers, sorry.
No,
All in the first chapter.
her brother's, it's not wife, but her brother's,
Bride to be, betrothed,
well,
lover.
no, I mean, it's hard saying lover. Maybe girlfriend if they used
Yeah.
that term back then, but I don't think they did. But it would be equivalent of girlfriend.
And what I meant by that is to save her brother because allegedly him interfering, he would have died for interfering. So by throwing her anyway, but that's all. That's the first chapter. Like there's no like lead in about these people. Like that's the opening of the book.
Yeah, but would you? I feel like that would kind of be boring. Like like do you want that?
Maybe like to get a little bit of backstory on these characters before we just see that scene.
Yeah, but it's told throughout the story. Like you get to know
True.
about her and her family. So
True.
I don't know. I disagree with you. But
well, that's fine.
Fair.
You're allowed to disagree. Anywho, for those of you leaving us at this point, don't forget to give us a rating if you like us and leave us a review if the app that you listen to allows you. And don't forget to be following us also on Facebook and Instagram. Our handle in both places is at Badass Lit Pod. We would love to hear from you. If you've got a book you want us to read, let us know. And now, again, since Lauren is out this month, Barbara's going to be taking over and doing the preview for next month. But next month, we will be reading The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones.
This chilling historical novel is set in the nascent days of the state of Montana, following a Blackfeet Indian named Goodstab as he haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Nation looking for justice. It begins with a diary written in 1912 by Lutheran pastors discovered within a wall in 2012. What is unveiled is a slow massacre, a nearly forgotten chain of events that goes back 217 Blackfeet dead in the snow, told in the transcribed interviews with Goodstab, who shares the narrative of his peculiar and naturally long life over a series of confessional visits. This is an American Indian revenge story, captured in the vivid voices of the time by one of the new masters of literary horror, Stephen Graham Jones.
I'm super excited for this one. I've been slacking on reading Stephen Graham Jones. Especially this one's going to be cool because Stephen Graham Jones is a Blackfeet Native American. And so he'll writing a perspective from reading this story. I feel like with that being his ancestry, will be very interesting. Remember, the second part of this episode is going to be an in-depth look at the book. So if you do want to read it, stop listening now and come back when you're done.
My bulky blender was such a pain to use, I ended up hardly ever using it at all. But the BlendJet 2 portable blender makes blending so easy and convenient, I use it just about every day. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even a margarita at the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. It lasts for 15 plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C. Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you're good to go. With over 30 plus colors and patterns to choose from, there's a BlendJet 2 to complement just about any style. I rock the ruby metallic print myself because I'm clearly a certified badass. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today, and be sure to use the promo code BADALitPod12. That's BADALitPod12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with the BlendJet 2 portable blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code BADALitPod12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever.
Now, for those of you sticking around for the spoilers, here we go. So we'll start off the second half like we always do and provide our nominations for the Badass Character Award. Barbara, who is your nominee for Badass Character?
I feel like this was very easy for me. It's Mina. She doesn't know how to fight, but she carries around her grandma's knife just in case she can stab someone, just in case.
Right.
And
Just in case.
it comes in handy because she just kind of swings it wildly and it kind of helps her once and twice here and there. So, yeah, Mina. She is super what is unselfish? What is that? The unselfish, is there like
Selfless.
the synonym? Selfless. She's a very selfless person and doesn't want to be the hero, doesn't want the spotlight at all. Like she's doing it because she just cares so much, and I really really liked her character. So Mina for sure.
Yeah, that's absolutely Mina. It's an easy choice. Badass Character Award goes to Mina. I was going to make a joke before even getting to that point that there's also not a lot of there are other characters in the book, but she is the sole protagonist, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't her point of view first person, if that's what you're getting at. But I mean,
Yeah.
we've read other books like that, and I feel like sometimes we don't vote for that particular person.
I guess that's true. I just feel like generally, you're probably going to vote for that person unless that person sucks. But
I don't know, because a badass character can be very it's not
It's
necessarily the main character.
yeah, it can be subjective.
Yeah.
We've definitely had some off the wall nominations. But anyway,
Mhm.
Mina does get the award for this book and this month. All right, let's briefly go over the characters before we jump into our discussion questions. Mina is obviously first. Barbara, do you want to talk about Mina?
Sure, Mina is. I feel like I kind of talked about her, but she is your main character. Like I said, first person point of view is of her, and she throws herself into the water to be the sea god's bride to save, like Michael mentioned, her brother so he wouldn't get in trouble for trying to stop his quote unquote girlfriend. Once again, at this point, at this time period, that's not what they call them, but like who he was sweet on, from being sacrificed. And Shim Cheong is that character that's from the original folklore. And it's just then you kind of learn throughout the whole book like about Mina and how she was raised and kind of what makes her into such a selfless character and why she's doing what she's doing. And it's not because she wants to, which there's actually a really funny scene, but she's not doing this to marry the sea god. Like that was never her intention. She did not want that. She just essentially wanted to save her family.
No, I mean, I think that's enough. We're going to obviously talk about these characters quite a bit as we go into the questions too. This is just a little bit of a breakdown, and like you mentioned, you'd already given some details about her. So I will move on to the next one, which is the person you already mentioned, which was Shin. Shin is, as Barbara already pointed out, the original character from the Fable, which I didn't know. So thank you for pointing that out. I was not familiar with the Fable, like I said, before reading this book. Shin is the protector. He is grappling with resentment and a hidden identity, which this is the spoiler section. So Shin and the sea god are very, very closely intertwined. In fact, he as Barbara, I think, told me when we talked about this, sacrificed his soul to allow the sea god to continue existing. Am I misspeaking again?
You
You're
are.
looking at me like I'm an
Shin
insane
is
person.
the sea god.
Oh, that's what I said last time, and you told me I was wrong, so I
No,
rethought that.
that's not what you said. You said that Shin, the emperor, and the sea god were all the same people, and I was like, absolutely not. They're not the same person.
So I
Shin
guess,
is the
okay.
sea god.
Shin is the sea god. We don't
And
know he's the sea god at first.
right. You don't find out until much later at literally like what, the last 2 chapters or something,
Literally, yeah.
when it's spelled out for you. But the person who you think, the person who the book tells you is the sea god, is actually the emperor that Shin is, who's this is getting into like real deep like story here. It's his soul that is keeping the emperor alive, because the emperor technically was supposed to die 100 years ago, but
Right.
made
And
a
Shin
wish.
presents himself as the general of the sea god, right?
No, he doesn't realize who he is. He's lost his memories, and he
Okay.
presents himself as just a lord who protects the sea god.
Okay. So not a general, just a, got it. Okay.
Yeah, he's a lord. He's one of the, he knows he's a god, but he doesn't realize like which god he is, because he knows he has no soul. But
okay.
so he doesn't know what god of what he is. Little did he know he was the sea god, the big bad. Not the big bad, but the big sea god person.
Right.
The main god.
the one that is the focus of the entire story.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting me on that. I appreciate it. You want to talk about Namji?
Namji is one of Shin's protector, I guess. I don't know what his actual official title is. Like if Shin is like the lord, maybe he's one of his generals, because he's got 2, maybe one of his guards. I don't know. But he is a mythical creature, I think is what they called him. There's an actual word that they used, but he can transform into a sea snake, and in the book, people who are sea snakes tend to be, I hate to use the word evil, but that's kind of what they used in the book, is evil. Like they're not good people, and he actually is. He's presented as like the goofy kind, like he's really goofy. He takes to Mina like super quickly and helps her out, is super friendly. He's friendly with everyone. He's like the polar opposite of Keaton. So that's, and the friend, like he has a huge friendship with Shin, because he was trying to steal from Shin, and instead of Shin killing him, because what he did was obviously illegal, he's like, hey, why don't you work for me? And that's what Namgi does.
Very nice. Kieran is his other lieutenant, or protector, underling of Shin. I don't have a lot to add about him. In fact, you pointed out before we recorded that Namji is the more spoken about character.
So Keaton is the other one, his other friend. He's extremely loyal to Shin, and he's called the Silver One, and you find out why they call him that, and he's the last of his kind because Namgi's people killed all of his kind. He's like a silver stag, I think it is. Like a...
Yes, that's
what I pictured the animal to look like, but, or I don't know. And he can, like, his blood is healing, so that's like, he's kind of like the medic of the group, and he's quiet and kind of extremely loyal, but like kind of keeps to himself, because I think of what happened, obviously. Like he's,
once you figure that out, it kind of makes sense. Yeah,
right.
He is very stoic compared to, in that way, he's totally the opposite of Namji.
Right. Yeah, like I said.
And then the last character we'll talk about, which is kind of a combination of a few characters, Mask Dai and Miki. They are guiding spirits that are helping Mina throughout her journey in the spirit land. And apparently Barbara knew all along that they were actually Mina's ancestors.
I did not all along, but
I did not know they were her ancestors until it was revealed that they were her ancestors, which for our people who have been listening for any amount of time will not be shocked by that at all. I'd like to think that if Lauren was here, she probably also didn't pick it up on it earlier.
This book is very easy to get who all these shock, like, I guess, like, my two things, like, One issue I had, it was a little short. The other, it's not an issue. Like, it didn't detract anything for me enjoying the book, but it's very obvious, I thought, like the factors of it, if you pay attention. It was one of those, I feel like.
Do you think that's maybe also because you were familiar with the folktale that it's based on?
No,
So you had
because
some like
no, because Mina is a fake character, not fake. Mina is a not part of the folklore. Like, that's a made up character for this book. And so that means Masks, Dai, and Miki aren't part of that story either.
True. Okay.
So
Never mind then.
yeah. So no, I don't think it's based on that. I think
Okay.
it's if you read between the lines.
Apparently I didn't read between the lines.
Listen to
But
between the lines.
Lore listen between the lines, yes. Along what would that be? Listen between. I'm not going to think too much on that. Anyway, along the same lines of what she was saying, though, our first question: what were your initial expectations going into the novel, and how did the book meet or defy them?
Initial expectations. I mean, I was looking forward to it. So, and I wasn't. It met my expectations. I was really looking forward to, like I mentioned earlier, like the retelling of the story because I am familiar. So I've read, not obviously the original story because I don't have a copy of that, but like I read, I guess what it would equate to like a Google article or something like that of the story, and then I've read a couple of different retellings of this, and I really enjoyed this one as well as the other ones that I've read, and this one's quite different because Shim Cheong is not the main character at all. Like, she is mentioned and she's kind of part of the story, but like this is Mina's story. And so I really liked how the author did that, where it's like complete, like it's not like the retelling of like Beauty or what's a good example? Like I'm trying to think. There's so many retellings, that's the problem, right? I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, even though there's so many retellings. But anyways, like I really enjoyed how this one was very different. So you, even if you know the original story, like this is very different from that. It just has like elements from the original one. So I would say it met my expectations, and I was extremely excited to read this and not disappointed that I did.
So that I was going to ask you that, and you kind of answered it. So the other retellings that you've read anyway were all more aligned with the original story.
Yes, with
Whereas this
the
is like kind of a
characters,
whole original story
right?
that's like
Like
has like it's based on it, but it's not that story.
right. Like other
Okay.
ones that I've read, I think I've read I don't know if it's two or three other ones,
Hmm.
and Shim Cheong is still the main character.
Okay.
Like, she's still the main
Interesting.
character, yeah. And it's how, like, why she threw her, like there was one that I read that was kind of like what you wanted, like why, like who these characters are, and her throwing herself at the sea was like the last part of the story type thing. It
Oh
was
wow.
like
So
getting
it's
to
like
know
the
her.
like a prequel kind of.
Right.
Interesting.
So yep.
Anyway, for my answer to this question, I didn't really have any expectations going into this book because I was not familiar with the folktale that it's based on, and I had never read any of the other retellings. But I was excited to read it based on the description that you just heard a little bit ago, and that we had going into it as well. And I liked it. I thought the book was enjoyable. So in that case, I guess it met my expectations. Hard to say if it defied them since I didn't really have any, but I did enjoy it, and it was what I thought it was going to be for the most part. Next question: what aspects of the spirit realm, its politics, creatures, or environments stood out most vividly to you? That's hard because I feel like in the same way I really enjoyed like all the aspects of Spirited Away, to use the reference you brought up earlier, Barbara. I liked all the aspects of a spirit world too. The environment and the way that the author described it was really cool. It felt very ethereal, and it felt very much like you were there. So that was really interesting and very exciting to read. I also did enjoy, shocker, the politics of the spirit world. I love it whenever there's a book that incorporates fantasy politics, and this one was no exception. So that was very interesting to me as well. And to be honest, the creatures were really cool too. Like the various different spirits and how they transformed sometimes into, like you just mentioned, like the sea snake before. That was really cool. So I enjoyed all aspects of the spirit realm. I thought it was a very cool setting, and it actually made me want to maybe read some other retellings of this story if they're along the same lines as this. I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I enjoyed all aspects of the spirit realm. I would even say that the spirit realm was kind of like a secondary character because it was like
That's true.
really
Yeah.
there, you know, like it felt like a second character to me because of how well she flushed it out. I feel like the politics, the creatures, the environment, like we spent a chapter, and it's cool seeing it through Mina's eyes because like she's new to this. So it was like we as a reader are experience it like Mina, which is all new to us, you know. And so I think she did a good job of showing us with Mina, like, oh, like look at this, like the cool and yummy sounding food, and like where kind of people lived, and the politics of what's going on, and how this has kind of been brewing for 100 years with people trying to overtake the sea god, and how they're fighting back, and just the lore behind it and the creatures behind it. It was really interesting. And like I said, I genuinely just, I would have been content reading like, I don't even know, 20 more chapters of just the spirit realm and just watching Mina just moseying around in it, you know. Like I don't think I would feel bored personally, because I was really enjoying it, you know. So I would have been content just reading her, or reading about her just spending her month just hanging out.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I'm right there with you. All right, our next question. The red string of fate shifts from binding Mina to the sea god to binding Mina to Shin. What do you make of this evolution of destiny and choice?
So I love the red string of fate. I think it's so interesting in how different Asian cultures interpret it. And I'm not speaking of like, I don't even want to be like, oh, I know so much about it. I really don't. It's just what I've read from other books and then Googling it because I was so interested in it, and I just kept like wanting to read more about it type thing. But it's so interesting because obviously this is the spoilers. So it seemed like all of the sea goddesses brides, obviously their red string is always towards him because like that is their destiny, right? That's why they got thrown into the sea for. And Shin is there to cut it out. So then, because in this book, if you're tied like that, then whatever happens to you can happen to them. And so he's there to protect the sea god, because if something happens to the bride, then that can kill off the sea god, and he's, you know, protecting him type thing. So that's why he's cutting it. And it's interesting because obviously when you find out that like her string was shifted over to Shin, it's the same thing essentially, because it's not the person that the string is fated towards, it's their soul. That's the whole point, you know. And so like he tried cutting it off, and it still shifted to him even though he didn't have a soul, and that's why he was kind of shocked in the first place and all this other stuff. But it's like she is fated to him. So it's just, I just thought that was so interesting to see that. And the evolution of destiny and choice. Well, I mean, before knowing all of this, Mina essentially tried going against the red string of fate because she loved Shin. You know, she starts falling in love with him, but she is technically supposed to be fated to the sea god, and she, it's like I said, it's a whole thing, like she didn't realize and all this stuff until later. But she kind of wanted to go against her destiny in that regard, because she wanted to be with him, even though she was like, no, I have to like save my family, so I really need to be with the sea god. And she just was like, nah, I can't do this, I'm in love with Shin. So I just found that whole thing really, really interesting. And I feel like I'm probably really confusing people, but if you read the book, you would understand.
The big reveal. He is the sea god. Dun, dun, dun. So I don't have a whole lot to add to what you said, Barbara, but I did want to ask you if, do you think, so it shifts obviously from the sea god to Shin. And do you think that was kind of saying then that she was like the true bride?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Because he is the sea god.
Also. Yeah, because he is the sea god, and so
you know,
it's attached to him, and they can't split it.
Right.
That to me meant true bride.
Right.
All the like fake brides were attached to the emperor.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because like I said, like when you study that or like read about it and stuff like that, like you think, oh, like, because the sea god has his soul and stuff like that, but like the string is attaching it to his soul, and his soul was inside the emperor, aka the sea god, aka the emperor.
Right.
But then when he cut it,
AKA.
right, when he cut it, it actually attached to her real like destiny,
Which is cool. Unless you're about to tell me that I've been exposed to all this media that uses Red String of Fate, just didn't realize it. I don't think I have. Are there other books we've read or like movies and TV shows that are like big that use this plot device?
You're asking a lot of me to remember what you
That's
have
okay.
seen or read.
I was just curious if there was something off the top of your head you thought of. If not, totally cool. We could move on.
I mean, it's an Asian culture thing, so if you can think of Asian culture stuff, I feel like, and I'm not trying to be rude here, but I feel like I've read more books with
absolutely
that.
Yeah,
so,
that's why I mentioned like maybe like a movie. I'll have to look that up afterwards, see if there's some stuff that I am not.
I mean, even Taylor Swift mentions it, but she calls it not a red string, but it was based off, one of her songs was based off of the red string theory.
Which one of her songs is based off that? Now I'm curious.
You would ask me that.
I mean, you had to kind of know I was probably.
Well, gosh, I'm not a real Swiftie. I'm so bad with titles. It's Invisible String, Taylor Swift.
Okay. There you go. All right. Next question. I lost my place. Mina's leap is an act of both love and defiance. How does her journey explore the tension between fate and agency? Well, I mean, yeah, her leap into the sea is literally, it's an act of love for her brother and defiance against like their entire culture, which is, we got to sacrifice the most beautiful maiden or the sea god's going to kill us all. And I think that provides an interesting dichotomy between those things, because their whole culture is based on this idea that everybody has like a fate. And, her brother's girlfriend's fate was to be thrown into the sea. And in a culture like that, there's not a lot of room for agency and free will and that kind of stuff. And so for her to just be like, nah, screw this, and throwing herself into the sea to kick off this story is the ultimate act of agency. But I think that throughout the rest of the story, kind of like this question alludes to, is there is very much like that tug of war, push and pull back and forth between Mina's agency and her free will, and she can do whatever she wants, and then the other pull of fate. And in this case, like Barbara was just talking about, the red string of fate that's connecting her to this other character, and what that means, and if that's truly like the only option. And so there's a lot of push and pull with that. And I think that the author did a really good job showing that, and also, as the question says, showing like the tension between fate and free will, essentially.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. The only thing I will mention, and it's kind of irrelevant, but I always find it interesting question about fate and agency, because like, yes, she threw herself in defiance of what their culture wanted to appease the sea god, but the whole time her fate was to literally do this. So did she have agency?
Ooh,
I know. The real answer is yes, because she had, it's one of those things where like you come into a path in your life and you have two splitty ends, and which one are you going to pick? Like, you're fated for both. It's your agency that picks which one you're going to do, and then that obviously your whole life this is a metaphor. Obviously you have multiple paths, not just two, but like that's the beauty I think of this, is when you really start thinking about it, it's like it's both. Like, you're fated for both A, B, C, D, E, and the agency you have is picking which one you have. And it's always the choices that you make that then lead that to you. Because if she decided just to be passive, then that wouldn't have happened,
True.
So,
yeah, if she decided to be passive, then there's an alternate reality where she stays on land and doesn't go in the boat.
The alternate reality is the folklore this is based on.
Yeah.
Where Shim Cheong was the one who was sacrificed.
Very true. All right, next question. Mina begins our story as a reluctant hero. How does her internal growth from self-doubt to resilience fuel the story?
So it's funny because like she keeps mentioning throughout the book every single time, like, I am not as pretty as Shim Cheong, I'm not as capable as some of the other brides that got thrown overboard, I'm not this, I'm just Mina, I'm just normal. And as someone who has felt that way, like, I get that. Like, I understand. It's like, you are just you. You don't feel like you're the prettiest, the best at, I don't know, playing the harp or like doing all this other stuff. Like, you're just, basic, just normal, basic Mina. And it's fun to see, and it was really cool to see that, like, all this self-doubt that she had is really, I wouldn't even say like self-doubt to resilient. Like, she has always been a resilient person. Like, you can see that throughout her whole story of how she is, and she doesn't give up on anyone or herself or anything like that. And that's what makes her special. It's not the fact that she's the prettiest or that she's the best at communicating or she's great at embroidery or amazing with the sword. I don't know. Back then
Such a
that's what they
random
used.
example.
That's what they did, Michael, back then. So it's just her resilience to just keep going regardless of the obstacles that are thrown in her way. And it was fun to see that, because the internal growth came in the aspect that, like, she's like, oh, like, maybe I am the sea god's true bride because I can do all this stuff. And it didn't stem from like, I'm so good at what I'm doing. It's just the fact that she's like, I need to save my family, and that means if I have to be his fated person, then dang it, I'm going to be, and I will freaking take that string of fate and attach it to myself and then attach it to him, and I will do it type resilience, and not like, oh, I'm so good at fighting or woodwork. Is that better? Do you want woodwork
That's
instead
fine.
of
No, I thought that
embroidery?
embroidery was fine. I don't have a lot to add on top of that. I think you really nailed it with just saying that everybody has their thing that they're good at, and her thing is her stubborn resilience that she'll never give up, and she'll just keep trying and trying and trying, which makes for obviously an interesting story. Next question. The ancestral spirits, Mask, Dai, and Miki, play surprising roles in shaping Mina's path. How did you feel when their true identities were revealed? Did it add deeper emotional resonance? So I feel like our answers to this are going to be different because of when they were revealed. But for me, it was, I guess I don't think I was like, gasping like I have like some like other twists in books, but it added a depth to the story that wasn't present with the spirits as much up until that point. And so it was less of a like, and more of a like, oh, and then sit there and think about like all these different things that we had seen and how the spirits had helped her, and then seeing that in a new light of them being her ancestors and her family. One of them, I can't remember which one it was, but one of them was her grandfather.
So Dai is the grandfather, Mask is her great grandmother, and Miki is her niece.
With the baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Still a niece.
Still a niece. And so as far as the deeper emotional resonance, obviously once it was revealed that it was her family, yes, it did. And there was a particular scene, I haven't even been able to like put my finger on why, but it like hit me like a ton of bricks when the scene where her grandfather, Dai, was talking about he's been taking care of Miki, and he's also been waiting for her grandmother to cross over so that they could move on together. And there's a scene where he explains like, it's like, well, whenever that happens, she's just gonna have to understand that I have to take care of Miki, this baby that doesn't have anybody else to take care of them. And it was such a powerful scene, and it was the way he told the story. It was getting emotional talking about it right now. It was very well written, and it really added a huge emotional resonance to those characters and to the greater story. And I remember after I read that, like I sat back for a second because I was emotional about the story and what the grandfather was saying. But then I sat there and thought about all the different things that both he and the other spirits had done to help. And it's like, wow, think about that a little bit differently when you realize who it is that's helping you out.
So before it was revealed, I kind of had an inkling. Originally, when we met them, I thought maybe it was her mom and dad, and then the little baby, I figured it was her niece that had passed away, like, as soon as she mentioned she had a niece that had passed away. But then a little bit later, when Dai gets hurt and he's mentioning like kind of like who he is and how he played a role in all of this stuff. He mentions like he's waiting for his wife, and I was like, okay, well that can't be her parents because both of her parents have passed away. And I was like, well, she has a grandma, so maybe it's the grandpa. And then Mask, after I figured out like, or after I was like, okay, if that's who Dai is, the Mask must be her great. I think it's just one great grandma
Yeah, I think
because
it's just one great.
right, because she kept mentioning like her great grandma, how her grandma's like, oh, you're just like her and you look like her and she's resilient like you are, and this is her knife. And so I was like, okay. And yeah, I thought it's a very emotional scene. Just like figuring out who they are and hearing Dai say that, and just kind of piecing it together and seeing how her family was there helping her the whole time when she thought that she was alone in the spirit world.
Some tears were shed during that scene in the book when both of us were reading it, it sounds like. So definitely an emotional aspect of the book. And one of my favorite parts of the book, actually, was the spirits and then learning their ancestry. Next question. Some readers mention pacing shifts, moments of rapid reveal versus slow build. Did the rhythm of the novel affect your immersion, and how so? So I'm curious what you're going to say about this.
I guess if it's just a pacing question, I didn't really have a problem with the pacing. I thought the pacing was quite quick. Maybe it should have slowed down. I don't know. I didn't have a problem with the pacing. I think the only time I have issues with pacing is if it's like extremely slow, or like the opposites of both, like either really really slow and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go, or like it's like whiplash. And I didn't feel that way with this one. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed like the how she wrote it, because I never felt like I was experienced whiplash or like it was too slow and I wanted to move on. And like I said, if anything, I wanted more, and maybe I wanted more of the slower scenes where it was just getting to know the characters and the world building even more. So I don't know. I didn't have a problem, I guess, with the novel. I don't really know if that answers the question or not, but
I think it does. I wrote this question effectively so that I could talk about, and we could talk about what I was talking about at the beginning, the smash cuts and parts of it where it just like there was that abrupt contrast from one scene to the next.
I would be curious to know what scene you're talking about.
I knew you were going to ask that, and I was sitting here thinking about it, and I can't think of
like
the exact
I feel like
scene
the
I'm
first one
referring
doesn't
to.
count because that's a great opener. Like
It
literally
is.
her swimming out to sea to this little dinghy of a boat. You know, like I personally don't want like, oh, and I'm Mina and I have a family and I have a grandma who takes care of me and my parents died and oh no.
No.
Like I personally liked the way that it was slowly revealed to us how her story and her growing up and what happened to her made her who she was at this point in time, personally.
And so I wish I could remember a specific scene. I also really enjoyed that. Like the use of the smash cut at the beginning, I think was very effective, and it can be super effective. But there are other times where it's more jarring, and it's jarring in a way that kind of yanks me out of the story, whether that's like a book or a movie or whatever it is.
Sure.
It's such a contrasting transition. And it's not like a horror movie where it's supposed to be like on purpose, where like you see the person about to die, and then it like smash cuts to like daylight, and it's meant to be jarring. Like this is in the sense like they were just trying to move the story along, and it was a hard transition from one plot point to the next.
I really wish you had a specific one, because I'm trying to think back and I didn't feel that way. That's what I'm saying. So I don't, not to say that I haven't, like I feel like with movies that's more often the case for me, or TV shows, but for literary there's only a couple of books where I have felt that, and one really comes to mind, and it wasn't even like it was a hard cut. It was just like we got to the like this really cool, I thought was going to be a battle scene, and then it hard cuts to like it's over, and we didn't
exactly
even right. And I don't want to throw any books under the bus,
but I know
like,
exactly what book you're
right. I'm sure you do, because we all felt that way, and I was just like, what is happening? Are you telling me we got to this like pinnacle of like what we were looking forward to, and this like awesome like fight scene that I thought was gonna happen to like it's over and we didn't even get to experience it. Like, what is happening? So that's like and that's funny. That's the only book scene that I can remember recently that we've read, and this wasn't even that recent at all, actually. And
Been
I
a couple of years,
felt
I
that
think.
way,
Yeah.
yeah. And I felt
Yeah.
that way. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like for books and TV shows, I can give you examples, but that's
Books,
the
it's
only
harder.
time where I was like, "What?"
Well, I'm sorry. I wish I could think of the example, but I can't think of a specific example for this one.
Fair.
Obviously, I had thought of something when I wrote this question because I've talked about
Right.
this now twice, but I don't remember exactly what it was.
Do you
Which is
know like
irritating.
what was happening?
If
No,
I
you
had
can't
any
even.
hints to give you, I would give them to you because then you could pick up on
I
it. But
could,
no, I
yes.
don't. Yeah,
Oh, sad day.
I know. Well, if I think about it, I'll post it on social media so that people
Yeah.
will know what this is about in this question. But our next question, the revelation that Shin and the sea god were once the emperor offers a powerful twist. What did this add to the book's meaning about identity and redemption? For me, I was not expecting this. I did not predict it. Like lots of other books we've read, I was floored when the twist was revealed. I thought it was really interesting, though. I mean, similar to what I was talking about with the spirits of her ancestors when that was revealed. You know, when it's revealed, like Barbara mentioned, I think earlier, it's like the last. It's either literally is the last chapter, maybe like the second to last chapter when you learn that they are the same person. He is the sea god. And it was, again, kind of that same moment where I remember reading it or hearing it because I was listening to the audiobook on this one. And then I paused it because I needed to, like, I sat there and thought about, like, and you look at the whole thing in a different light. And I feel like this is one of those books where just knowing those two pieces of information, that Shin is the sea god and that the spirits that were helping her were her ancestors, if you were to reread this book, it would almost be a different experience. And that's super cool. So I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really cool element to the story. And if I ever did reread this book, it would be like reading a new book, I feel like, because you're going to be looking at all these characters that are main characters totally differently because of what you know and wasn't revealed until the final third of the book.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I kind of already touched base on this. Like, when she first meets the sea god, she touches him, she gets this vision, and it, like, that first time I kind of was like, meh, it is what it is. I was like, okay, cool. And then you learn about what happened to the emperor and a little bit later and stuff. And then she has a vision of that same thing again with him being on the cliffside, and I was like, oh, I think the sea god here is actually the emperor. And i didn't I didn't put that Shin, aka the sea god, gave up his soul to keep the emperor alive for 100 years. That is not what I thought. I just thought the emperor died and he's down here and he's stuck down here, and somehow we need to get him back up. And for some reason Shin and the emperor forgot, and like they switched places type thing. Like, I wasn't sure exactly like how that happened. But that's what I was thinking. So I mean, the twist still was a twist for me because it ended up being like that Shin gave up his soul to keep the emperor alive in this kind of weird, like, half state of consciousness type thing because he was asleep the whole time, until Mina
So you would
came
say
along.
you partially picked up on this one,
I
then you didn't pick up
partially,
on the
yeah,
whole
I
thing.
picked up on who they were, not the circumstances of how they got
Yeah.
there, I guess I would say. So, but I mean,
Oh,
I still,
no, sorry, go ahead.
I still think it was a great twist. Like I mentioned before, even picking up on this didn't detract, for me at least, the story. And like sometimes when you're like, oh, I figured out who the murderer is, oh no, now it's like boring. But I've never felt that way because I enjoy trying to figure it out, and then I like to see like, oh, like how close to this was I. It's never been like, well, now the book's ruined for me and I guess I can't finish it type feeling for me.
Yeah, that's true. I will say you frequently predict things in books and movies and everything, but you never are like you're never like, oh, now I'm done.
Right. If anything, I'm more excited to get to the end to see like how close I was to it.
I will say for this one, so I finished the book, right, and then put
Mhm.
together the outline, went over and talked to Barbara, and realized in talking to Barbara that I misunderstood the twist, which is still evident in this question that I didn't edit after writing it, which is that I came over and I told Barbara, like, I never suspected that it was Shin, aka the sea god, aka the emperor, and you were like, wait, no.
I just now noticed. Did you
And you
actually read it word for word, this question, or did you fix it
I
when
did.
you were
That's why I'm addressing it right now.
Oh.
Because so when I read it the first time, that is how I understood it, is that they were
all the same person.
And then I came over and I told you, and you were like, well, no, they're not. And then you explained it, and I reread it, the last part of the book, and I was like, oh, I misunderstood
yeah,
that.
They're two people, separate people sharing one soul. Is that correct? Easier for you to?
Yes. But I wanted to address that because I realized that I didn't come back and fix this question after realizing that I was wrong.
I did not realize when you were reading that out loud.
I put this
that's
together
what you said.
and wrote these questions before I came over and talked to you about it, and realized I was wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, final question.
So, readers, they are not the same person.
They are not all the same person.
There's two different people.
Michael, was wrong in how I understood what happened at the end. Speaking of the end, in the end, Mina chooses love with Shin and balance, restoring the Emperor, over returning home immediately. What does this say about her evolution, and what message does that leave the reader with?
I'm not sure about returning home immediately, because so I feel like we didn't even get to talk to one of my favorite characters that we didn't even mention at all, and I'm going to mention her here because I must. Actually, two of my favorite characters, and we barely got them. One of which was the goddess of moon, and I believe she's goddess of moon in memory. She was such a badass character. She was kind of an antagonist, but not in the... Well, yeah, an antagonist. One of this. I feel. I feel like I'm murmur. There's not really an antagonist in the book. The antagonist, I feel like, is time. And trying to figure out how to resolve this issue that we're having. But she, if you were going to say oh, she is one of the people who wanted to overthrow Shin and the sea god. Because she actually knew that Shin was the sea god. She was one of the only people who knew.
Hence her name, the goddess of moon and memory.
And memory, right. And so it's so she knew the connection was trying to overthrow him type thing. And she was oh, this is my moment. But really, she wasn't an evil person at all. If anything, at the end, Mina suggests for her to be the goddess of four things, the moon, memory, and women and children, and she does actually. And I just love her character, how we met her. What a scene to be introduced to her, just riding this sweet horse type thing with flames in your eyes. She was such a cool character, and I wish we had more of her. And the other character that I want to mention that I really enjoyed,
before you mention the next character, I want to make sure the person you're talking about first, the goddess of moon and memory, is the one where she went and she found the prayer that went unanswered, and went and had that whole confrontation about why would you not help this person?
No, that's the original goddess of women and children, who is a terrible goddess and didn't answer any of the people's prayers, and only if she answered them, she wanted payment, and that's why she wasn't answering them. No,
and scene is why she convinced this god,
this goddess,
to take on that role, because the other goddess,
because this goddess is the one who was with the sea serpents, Namgi's family. She was the one who was telling them to go and trash the town that they all lived in, and all that stuff, and was causing all these issues and sending her people to kind of murder people. But she has a soft spot for children. And that's why she killed her own man when he was going to kill Dai. She killed the person, that sea serpent that was trying to kill Dai.
Yeah.
That's her. And then she's also the one who tried making a deal with Mina. And, she got her memory, and she thought, this memory, or the wish that Mina made, was to become the god, the wife, the bride of the sea god. But really, the memory that she had prayed for and all this stuff was the memory of her niece, And then when she saw that, she started crying and was oh, because she has a soft spot for children. Right. And she's also the one who saved her when she was lost in the forest. If you got that connection.
Okay.
There's a lot happening here. Once again, like, we didn't have any of this, but like, I would be remiss if I did not get to mention her, because she for sure was one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite, like, super side character there. That's pretty
Yeah.
much her whole like story. I feel I kind of already like put it up in a nutshell.
Thank you for letting me interrupt. Who was the other character you wanted to talk
Shiki,
about?
the god of death. He was so cool. Like, he was very like not really in it a lot, and that was someone else I really wish that we got more of, but like, he just seemed like it's always like people are like, oh, like the god or goddess, whomever, depending on what culture you're in, of death is always like this terrible person because of death, and it's like the opposite. Like, he's like this nurturing person who's like anyone who is fighting in the river of souls, I guess, whatever you want, like the river of where the,
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to describe
you
it.
know,
Yeah.
like kind of Greek-esque in that the, you know. And so like he waited out there and like grabbed the little girl who was like struggling to try to live type thing, and he was like, oh no, you're safe with me. And like, I don't know, it's like, it's your stereotypical like stone silent badass death god who's like a marshmallow in real time, especially because he fell in love with the sea brides. I thought that was so cute. I wish we had more of their story. Anywho,
I think she did say she's writing a sequel to this, maybe.
oh, is it about Shiki and his love? Because I would be so down to read that.
I'm actually looking so that I can tell you.
I guess while Michael's looking, I will answer the question. Let me reread this. So yeah, so obviously Mina chose her love for Shin and how to try to help the Emperor both. She did both. But it was like the very last day, so like she was really cutting it close for her soul to like not die off in the spirit world. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know about like returning home immediately, because it kind of felt like she had to do it that day because she was trying to do everything else previous days, and then she almost died. It was a whole thing, and so it was just kind of like, I don't know how to answer that, because I feel like she did go home immediately, because then she stayed home for like 2 years when Shin forgot who she was, and then the Emperor was like, I love you, because he couldn't remember who she was either. So I don't know how to answer that, to be honest with you. I guess her evolution is that she's picked both love and duty.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to answer it. And I think you also kind of answered it before you went on the tangent about those other two characters too.
Characters I wanted to mention.
But I mean, I think we, between our dialogue here, have covered this question well. Also, just to add, I was wrong. She's not writing a second one about this.
How dare you?
It's
you got
a different,
me really excited.
A different book she wrote that came out this year called The Floating World, that she announced she's writing a sequel for.
Oh,
I misread. That's my bad. I apologize, Barbara, for getting your hopes up.
You took that hope and then you just yanked it right out. You know,
there's maybe she will in the future. Send her an email.
Right? Yes, my one email will definitely twist her arm.
But that is it for today's podcast. Let's talk about our individual scores. Barbara, what was yours?
A 9. I really liked this book. The characters, the plot, the setting, just everything. I really enjoyed it. Like, the only thing I will say, like I said, that I've mentioned, like, I thought it was too short. I wanted more. I wanted more in this world and this world building that she did. I would love, obviously, look how excited I got when Michael mentioned the sequel. Like, I would love to explore this setting even more so, and heck, even the characters and stuff like that. Like I've mentioned, like, I would love to get like a lore of these different gods that we got to kind of briefly meet but didn't really get to explore either, that I enjoyed. The only thing that I would say that outside of like it needed to be longer, because like, I feel like that's a good thing, like that's a good thing to complain about, would be like, she had a month, and of course she fell in love with someone in a month. Like I get it.
The trope
like,
that Barbara hates.
And it's not like love at first sight, because she wasn't like, oh, I love you. Like, if anything, they were trying to play up the role like, oh, they hated each other, but like really she didn't. I wouldn't say that's a hate type thing. It's more like they didn't know each other, and she misunderstood what his reasonings were, and as soon as she figured out that he was so soft and such a great person and kept his promise, she was like, love. So like, once again, I wouldn't use the whole like, because people are like, oh, it's enemies to lovers. Absolutely not. absolutely not was not enemies to lovers. Do not even get me up on this freaking pedestal about that. That's the only little thing that I'm gonna maybe gripe on is that's a month. But I get it. It's like we can't have her soul be like there for 6 months for her to like realistically fall in love with someone, because like that at that point you're like, what is she doing, just twiddling her thumbs for like 5 months while she tries to figure this out? Like, we needed agency to get the plot rolling, so I understand why in a month we needed this to happen. It's just one of those things that I will always harp on, is the fact that people tend to fall in love really quickly in these books, but alas, that is normal.
I'm happy that you said that, because I've been sitting here. I was like, I wonder if Barbara's ever going to mention.
There wasn't a question. There was no question about their love story. Nothing about that. And so if you would have mentioned their love story, then I would have harped on it. And so this is the last part that I can harp on it.
Touche. So I gave this one a 7.75. Try to base these scores off other books we've done this season, and so I really liked this one, but I didn't like it as much as She Who Became the Sun. And what was the other one again? The Red Palace. So but I liked it more than the Wren and the Holly Library. So 7.75 is where I ended for my score. Group score for this one was an 8.4 out of 10. Let's wrap things up. So make sure you're following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating and leave us a review if they allow you to. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. Our handle on both Instagram and Facebook is @BadassLitPod.
Have feedback about today's episode? Well, you can contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. You can also send us a DM or leave a comment on any of our social media handles.
As always, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara.
Bye.